happy to be on the AWS stage. I think there has been a lot of Gen AI talks earlier, but I'm going to switch gears and we will talk about computer vision. Computer vision was one of the AI technologies that in the 2010s, also a decade earlier, helped with the advancement of AI research in general as well. And in the consumer end of the use cases, computer vision, which is the automatic processing of images, has been put into scaled quite well by many US technological companies. But if you look at the industrial domain, the scaling effect has not been that much. But here we are today here together to say that we're going to catch up. And that's the reason we are going to, I've invited Jakob Engelmann, the technological product owner from Volkswagen Group, and with him and me, Deepa, from the MHP company, we are going to try and present to you how the Volkswagen Group scaled industrial computer vision in their factories. Jakob, how are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Good. Could you tell us a little bit about the architectural concept behind this industrial computer vision and why such a decision was made behind this concept?
Yeah, sure. So let's start with the obvious. So computer vision as technology is an extremely attractive technology for everything around production logistics, which is the area that I'm from in Volkswagen Group. So there are literally hundreds of use cases that we found across the whole company, from checking if everything's built correctly, to surveillance processes, to monitor the company, to the logistics processes and so on. So there's a lot you can do with the technology, and the attractiveness is very, very high. On the same hand, when we started dealing with computer vision as technology, we also saw with our first stock taking that there are literally dozens of suppliers who have their own solutions that they sold to all Volkswagen companies and locations. So there was a wild zoo, so to say, of different solutions. And scaling the technology is very, very, very difficult if you have that kind of distributed setup. So we thought about how should we make the scale. And we talked a lot with our customers in the factories and asked them what's important for you to make the technology work. And the key answer always was, we need highest accuracy of the overall system. So for us, the key figure that we're always talking about is 99.6% of overall end-to-end accuracy of the whole application. Right? So we're not talking only about the machine learning part, but the real end-to-end application. So everything from the camera to the cloud connectivity, and then everything in the cloud, and then communication back to the factory. Everything needs to be super accurate, and it needs to work all the time, basically, because otherwise you risk that your factory is stopping, and then there's a huge loss for your company. So this is really the key focus. And you need stable operations processes for this. So if something breaks, you need someone that they can call in the factory, and that they have the feeling that it's fixed on time. So everything needs to be very scaled, and highest quality is crucial here. So our customers, so the factories, expect a working solution. It's not, as you would usually do it in an agile way, test and try and see if it works and then change something, make it work somehow. It needs to work from minute one on, and that's why we focused on technology.
Great. So such roadblocks, I guess, is not only unique to the VW Group. I think MHP, with its diverse customer portfolio, we have had like a lot of such experiences, also not only in the automotive industry, but also in other industries as well. And as I said, with the diverse portfolio, we have learned some tips and tricks how to overcome these roadblocks, but we will come to it later. But maybe you can give us now a little bit more insight into the industrial computer vision solution itself, what it is and what does it do.
Yeah, sure. So we started working on it in 2020, so quite some time ago, and I'm happy to show you the results by now. In 2020, as I said, we did the initial stock taking, found out what's there already, what are the roadblocks so far. And we formulated some kind of vision for us, and the clear vision for us as Volkswagen Group was to scale the technology across all our brands and factories, and to substantially save money with it. So our goal was a double-digit million savings until 2024. So by now we have 2024, and I'm happy to tell you that we're on a good way here. We focus on 3 key pillars for implementing this. So the first one is scalable applications. That's what you see on the slide here. So we prioritized our initial use cases that we set up to prove that we can reach this 99.6% accuracy that I mentioned earlier. just a quick run through to give you an insight on what's actually the breadth of applications that we're looking at. On the left-hand side, at Porsche, we implemented a label inspection. So the label in the car, some of you might know it, is like the ID of the car, and for us it's really crucial that we have a correct label. The position is different for every country, so we also need to ensure that for every country it's in the correct position, it's not damaged, and of course it needs to be the right label for this exact car. So this one is what we're checking, and you see that we also have a mobile application here. Usually we work with fixed cameras in the production. In the middle, you see something we implemented at Volkswagen brand in Wolfsburg. You see the underbody of the car, and depending on what model of car you're producing, there are literally hundreds of combinations how the underbody could look like. So this is something that a human simply cannot check because it's way too complex. So this is made for AI, and we eventually made it happen. On the right-hand side, some crack detection that we implemented with Audi, where we look in our press shop, like every 3 seconds there's a metal part coming out that we pressed in our press shop. It can happen because we're working under extreme conditions here that there are cracks on these parts, so we need an AI that can look at the parts and see if there are cracks on it. So this is the first key pillar, so scaling central applications that we know that all our locations will need in the end. On the other hand, you will always come up with a situation that the plants have very unique challenges that they want to solve. So usually you have another zoo of small problems that the plants would like to solve for themselves, which simply cannot be provided centrally. So you also need to make sure that the plants can work and solve their own local problems, which is what we call democratization of the technology. So we will provide it to the plants and teach them how to do it, and that they can eventually build their own solutions. So these are the two key pillars use case-wise, and then the third pillar is rather obvious. So we were building and providing a ICV technology for everything. So all these use cases that we're talking about are built on the same technology that we're providing as Volkswagen Group. And so we can make sure that it scales and scales nicely, and the quality is as high as we need it.
Very good. I guess the scaling of it or the technology is deployed in some sort of a cloud provider, I assume. And if I know that it is AWS at Volkswagen, I guess the reason we are here together on the AWS stage is Volkswagen's choice of cloud provider and MHP's expertise in deploying use cases on the AWS cloud. So in order to implement such a use case, you have to work with stakeholders from different corners of the manufacturing. You don't only have like the ICV developers, the software developers, but you also have the shop floor stakeholders like the quality control managers, and as well as the factory IT. How did you come up with the plan to make them all work together in a coherent fashion?
Yeah. So there are a lot of challenges you face when implementing such a solution, right? So for us, it was one of the first solutions that we really implemented on the cloud, so AWS. Thanks to them for providing the great technology here. For us, it was a great chance because at the same time as we started setting up the ICV strategy, we also implemented the big partnership we have with AWS to build our Volkswagen cloud with them. So that was a unique chance for us to start right away in the cloud. Nevertheless, there are a lot of challenges when implementing something like this in a large corporation. I would like to point out 4 things. So you have technical challenges, of course. So first time you implement a cloud, there will be challenges that you face, especially if you have such legacy systems as we do with our shop floor IT, which is rather old, to put it mildly. So you need to adapt to the complex existing situation. You have business challenges, so as I mentioned earlier, our plants tend to be different. So it's not that every plant of Volkswagen Group is similar and you have the similar problems everywhere. So everything is different in every plant, so there's simply no copy-pasting of your existing AI solutions. You always need to be able to implement, integrate locally, and change whatever you want to do and adapt it to the local situation. So technical challenges, business challenges. Organization is a big topic, of course. We would like to work in an agile way, and we're doing our best there, but still there are some processes that sometimes hinder us. So for example, licenses are a big topic for us. Before we deploy anything, there always needs to be a legal check of the licenses we use. So this hinders you to just simply develop something and then test it, because you just need to make sure that it's compliant with your organization. And then the last thing, very important to mention, because we're very cost-driven, we want to produce high-quality cars, but at a reasonable price, right? So it's for us really important that the technology has a positive business case. And it's surprisingly expensive to put a camera within our production, since you need to comply with a lot of regulations. And it's simply, especially for cloud solutions, not possible to build a positive business case with only one use case. So you always need to come up with a full roadmap to have a bunch of use cases to put together, so that you can end up with a positive business case and then decide for implementing it.
Great. Jakob, you also know that MHP also has an independent portfolio for AI. As a company, and it also has computer vision solutions and whatnot. But we also have a diverse other AI portfolio, and we are constantly playing catch-up with the technology, which is really exponentially growing, and every day there is something new coming out of the research. And we have to constantly, we ourselves are busy as MHP catching up to this and adding more and more features into our portfolio. Now, as Volkswagen Group and as an ICB team, how did you close this gap between industry as well as research?
Yeah. So many of these parts that we showed you are state-of-the-art, so to say, and there's a lot of open source frameworks that you can use for implementing all kinds of technologies. In the end, putting it together in a full system is quite a challenge, and there's quite a research gap on this as well. We were quite happy that we were granted a research project by the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs, which helped us a lot, because on the one hand, of course, there are financial incentives that makes it easier to build the positive business case that I mentioned earlier, but also is a great chance because you can put up a great consortium. So we're not working on it alone, but we have a lot of great consortium partners that help us research on specific elements that we want to close. And of course, it's also internally a good marketing tool, because if you gain such a project that's funded by the state, then this also gives you some power to implement internally and sell whatever you do internally as well. In the end, we tested a lot of different approaches. There are a lot of things, as I mentioned, that you still need to find out what's working for you as your company with your specific problems. For example, we try a lot with synthetic data, which is a very nice use case to speed up everything that we're building here. And we tested, there are a lot of different approaches on the market, and you simply don't know upfront what is working for you, and especially what's beyond the POC phase working for you to make it industrializable. And that's where we tested together a lot of things, yes. And I'm very happy to have you as partner here.
Right. I guess then we started. So now that the ICB solution is in a rollout in a packaged fashion where you can now roll it out, I guess the next aspect is like, how do we roll it out into different factories? So that is where MHP comes in, and we have worked together with Volkswagen Group for a really long time already, and we have also enabled them and helped them or supported them in the plant connectivity to the cloud. So you need to connect a lot of machines from the factory into the cloud, and this is the base for running any sort of computer vision applications in the AWS cloud. And based on the various experiences that we already gathered during plant connectivity, we were able to enable you in an easier, together find a roadmap in which we can deploy and scale them out. And one of the things that we did was that we created this questionnaire and together. And the questionnaire it's having the same set of questions, but in different languages. One you need for the shop floor IT, another one for the connection, the IT expert, as well as the security expert, and as well as for the ICB developers. So we created these questionnaire together, and so with these questionnaire, we try to onboard the colleagues, as well as identify the various stakeholders from the different factories. As Jakob already mentioned here, the factory setup in every city within Germany itself could be very varied. So we need to have a better understanding of these things to roll out and scale out the solution, and that is what we did together. And can you give us like a short insight into the success that we have already tasted with this initial part of it?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, initially we managed to build these applications and make our customers happy. So at some point we took the decision as group that we want to scale the technology across all our brands that we're having. In total, as you saw, and hopefully we made clear in the presentation, this is quite a complex endeavor. We initially started to develop everything our own with our internal IT departments who are great experts in the technology. But at some point, you just recognize, okay, I need some external input and I need some scaling partners to help me bring this to our customers. And this is where you as MHP came in, thankfully, with your end-to-end expertise from the shop floor to the cloud and the machine learning. So this helps a lot also to get some external insights on what other industries are doing, because as we mentioned, the car industry might not be the front runner here, but we're now a fast follower and making this a big success.
Right.
And yeah, we're now building the ICV ecosystem, as we call it. So we choose our prioritized use cases that we're implementing together. We're building, as we call it, the ICV product, so a technical setup to serve all our customers. And then we're also working on the quality and scaling processes that we need to make it happen and bring it to our customers.
So here we have brought a small GIF which shows out the rollout plans. So we start off first, not only in Germany, but within Europe as well. Together in Germany as well as other cities in Europe, and we will roll them out in 2024. Given that we also have international locations as MHP, we are able to even plan already in talks with Brazil, Mexico as well as USA to roll out in the near future. So maybe in 2025, one can expect ICV being rolled out globally, internationally, together with MHP, I think. And I'm hoping that this will turn out into a big success story for the both of us. And I hope, I guess, we have been able to give you a short insight into the success story between VW Group and MHP in rolling out ICV, and we are here available later to answer any questions you may have. Thank you, Jakob, for presenting this insight with us.
Thank you.
For the audience here.
Any questions to us or afterwards?
Yes.
Did you encounter any major setbacks while you were implementing? So were there any case where the general setup did not work with a particular plant or a particular stage of production at all?
Sure. I mean, roadblocks, I think that was the initial thing that we started. So there are, but the idea is to overcome them. It is not, as we already mentioned in the beginning, no two factories are alike. And the way they connect the different hardware to the cloud is also very different. The protocols, the interfaces that they use turn out to be different. And some of them you develop for one factory. Sometimes it's not automatically deployable in the other factory. So you have to either try to come up with a more flexible thing, where you don't have to develop for each factory the same thing over and over again in a different language or a different protocol. So those kind of decision makings have to be done. So first you have to make an overview via this questionnaire, as we told you. We try to understand the diverse infrastructure that is there and then try to categorize them into groups so that we can reduce all these roadblocks into a minimum and then overcome them. Jakob, you have something to add?
Yeah, maybe I would turn around. What's usually not a challenge, interestingly, is the AI part. So the data science is usually, for the use cases we showed, not the key challenge, but it's really rather building the whole system around, putting the cameras there, having the trigger signal for the camera in the right second. So I think when we started off with our IT colleagues in 2020, we were much more enthusiastic about how fast we can implement everything. And that was just a key learning that was quite painful throughout the first years to see, okay, actually the data science part is simple to solve, but everything around needs to be more solving.
All right, thank you very much, and I wish you guys a nice afternoon and the rest of the HMI Messe. Thank you.
Thanks.